So now, what is even this living expenses we're talking about? Now, living expenses are recurring, unavoidable, inevitable expenses for the staying together of the regularity of our lives, or our standard of living. You see, for us to have a regular living, we have light when we are supposed to have light, we eat when we are supposed to eat, we wear the kind of clothes that are befitting to us, we go to the kind of places that are befitting to us, and we buy food or we buy clothes from there, from so and so market, whatever it is that is our standard of living. Okay, it is our, and whatever they cost us is our living expense, and we do this every day as a matter of routine, as a matter of habit. Now, your living expenses determines your class. We have the upper class, we have the middle class, we have the working class, we have the underclass. All right. Now, it's not your earning power that really determines your class, but your living expenses. Because we have people with great earning power, and for one reason or the other, they live one or two or even three classes below where their peers are living. Some are living beyond where their peers, they're earning the same thing, but they are living beyond where their peers are living in terms of expenses, for one reason or the other. Now, when you have a project you have to run, you have one basic you have to pay, you're building a house, you're sending children to school, or you have aged parents who are sick, or you are planning something, you are packaging something, you are building something, you are setting a system into place. There are certain things that, even though you are earning in dollars, you are earning $300 or $2,000 a week, you will not be able to spend. While your mates are going to party and they are popping champagne because they have extra funds that they need, you can't afford to do that because you are building, because you are creating. Okay, and then there are some, of course, who, even though they are earning just 300,000 or 500,000, just because they are working in that environment, they will, like I used to, go and collect loan, and they must buy that car, and they must go for every party, and they must pop champagne at the party, and then they go to high life, supermarkets and restaurants, and they start carrying, they upgrade their taste in babes. You understand? And then like that. So they begin to live beyond their class in pairs, or their peers. They begin to live beyond their peers who have the same earning power. Okay, so it's not your earning power that determines your class, but your expenses, living expenses, your recurring, unavoidable expense for the staying together of the regularity of your life. So what constitutes your living expenses? We have feeding, we have transport, we have housing, we have leisure in capital letters. Leisure, that is entertainment, that is data, that is movies, outings, all of that is leisure. Is just for and leisure is a very big part of life. In the French culture, leisure is called recreation. God has created, but human beings now have to recreate. You have to recreate yourself regularly. It's part of rest. It must be part of your budget. So however you partake in leisure, it must be put into perspective for your living expenses. Now you have clothing. Some people, TM Louis, or what are the latest clothes in town now. And some people, no matter how much they earn, they will never miss their bend down select. You understand? So your clothing, the shoes. Some people don't bother about the shirt, but you see their shoes must be, Some people just the wristwatch. Some people is the beads. Some people, where you're shaving. Some people go and shave. Just shaving alone, they bust out, maybe 10,000 or 30,000 just to shave. We not talk of barbing of hair like a father couldn't do like my own, and maybe you are doing it every week or every day or every 2 days. Some just have their clipper at home and do it themselves. So your clothing, education, whether for yourself or for your kids or for whoever, education is a big part of living expenses. And education is different from project. Projects are not part of your living expenses. You must know that projects are not part. But other things that are part of your living expenses are dependents. If you have aged parents, if you have children, these are part of your living expenses. If you have live-in siblings, these are part of your living expenses. Now, living expenses are different from projects that we embark on. To some people, projects supersede living expenses because projects are temporary. You run the project, you create the project, and then you end the project and you get back to looking for how to curtail your living expenses. During the time you are executing your project, you curtail your living expenses. And sometimes when you finish your project, it will boost your living expenses again, or by then you can now be relieved and then begin to continue with your living expenses the way it's supposed to be, for the regularity of your life. For others, the reverse is the case, which means that some people living expenses supersede projects, because they can't afford to miss their going out every weekend. Their leisure cannot come and kill them because of one project. And that's why some people, maybe education, for example, you're not going to let education of your children fail just because you are building one house somewhere. Sometimes you have to pay the school fees, and that's why some lands and some houses are unfinished and undeveloped. So some people living expenses supersede project, but some people projects supersede living expense, and they curtail the living expense until they have finished the project. So in my opinion, living expenses can be temporarily adjusted, is often temporarily adjusted for various projects that will arise in our lives. Sometimes these projects successfully completed affect positively our living expenses. Now, things living expenses affect versus things that affect living expenses. I think that will be my next video, and I think you guys can help contribute or what you think about this living expense of a matter. The things that affect living expenses and the things that living expenses affect. And then later we will now talk about unexpected expenses. But for now, let us exhaust this topic of living expenses, because living expenses, they affect status, yes, they affect satisfaction and ego. Living expenses affect access and exposure to opportunities, information. Living expense, some of my living expenses is data. I must always have enough data to be online, and it gives me information. And also, what am I going to do with that data? I begin to see all this information I'm having, I'm making use of it. And you see me now coming across you. If you're coming across this video, please give it a like, give it a share, follow for more if you like the content. And I'm definitely thankful that to the algorithm of the platform that we're on right now that has made you see this video. And I hope you have learned something. Living expense affects discipline and self-development. Living expense affects ambition. Okay, so what else can you add to all of this? Thank you very much for listening. It is YOLO for finance and securities. Finance and securities. Of course, you know that I'm a global kind of YOLO. Global. I'm into insurance, I'm into other things, but for finance and securities, it's YOLO Global. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your time scrolling or whatever it is you're doing. You can rewatch the video if you really, and please make sure you comment. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.